we have the Chairman Committee on COVID-19, Nigerian Medical Association, Lagos State Chapter, Dr. Japhet Olugbogi. Please, can you please help me with the bell? Help me with the bell.
That clap is you manufactured.
All of the
Thank
above.
you for having me.
Oh yeah, he's one of the strong pillars of our defense system in the fight against COVID-19. It's very important for me to emphasize this. If you go online, all the research you will see his name pop up. He's been a strong pillar of all the defenses in the system regarding this pandemic period. It's healthcare service and advocacy against the spread of coronavirus plays a key role to the orientation and the enlightenment of Nigerians at this crucial period of our lives. Again, welcome, Dr. Japhet. It is indeed an honor to have you in the studio today with me.
Namaste.
All right. All right. First thing first, how are you and how have you been keeping still or staying safe?
Oh, well, it's been a challenging year, like you mentioned. But personally, I've been observing the social preventive factors, measures. I've been wearing my mask. I wash my hands as many times as possible. I try as much as possible to avoid a large gathering. In fact, many gatherings I enter with my face mask and everybody turn their heads and look like...
So you seem to be the only one wearing
yeah, exactly. So because of that, I've tested for COVID-19 about 5, 6, 7 times.
Okay.
I haven't tested positive. But I know that in between all those activities, I might have had it maybe for a couple of days and then the thing just disappeared by itself.
We thank God that it disappeared.
Yeah, we thank God.
All right, Dr. Olugbogi. You know, for the sake of those listening to us, our audience, many people do not understand what a second wave is, while some still doubt its occurrences. Some people don't believe that pandemic is real. Kindly educate our listeners on how the second wave has come to happen.
Thank you very much. And I actually believe you and support you on the fact that a lot of people still don't believe, because just yesterday, somebody still asked me that, are you guys sure that this thing is for real? Are you sure those figures are right? And I was like, I almost broke down, because I was like, so all these things you have been saying since all these days, yeah, sit out in that. Yeah, could wait more at all. So yeah, the second wave is real. It's not imminent anymore. It's actually here already. And the reason why they call it second wave is because at the beginning of the year, we had the COVID-19 in Nigeria. It dwindled down about July, August, and then started coming up again in October when we opened the airports, our airspaces. A lot of flights coming in from different parts of the country. We suspect that is where we started picking up cases from again. And then when the number of cases started increasing again, then we asserted that we have the second wave here. So just last week, the NCDC confirmed that we recorded the highest number of cases for a week since the pandemic started. So you can imagine that even during all those weeks of April and March that we even had lockdown, we didn't record as high as the number of cases we recorded in a week as much as we did last week.
It's alarming.
So the second wave is here.
Yeah, it's alarming. And listening to you, I can't help but ask, because I know that over 838 new infections across the nation, and fatality is tripling within a month as well. And going by projections and predictions, if we don't act fast or stick to safety rules, so to speak, what is the level of emergency we would be facing during the second wave that we're going into?
All over the world, the case fatality rate, that is the number of people that die, if you compute that against the number of people that have the virus, it's about 2.2 or 2.4. Okay. But in Nigeria, it's a little lower, maybe about 1.5. So if we don't act, if you don't do anything about it, if you don't continue to wear face masks and avoid parties and all that, or large gatherings, and we continue having cases like that, what we will do is to increase having the number of people that will die or people that will actually come down with serious ailments. You can say maybe 1.5 is low. What it means is that if you have 100 people, at least 1 or 2 of them will die. So if you say that figure is low, well, God forbid if it happens in your family. If you say the figure is low and you have, yes, a lot of jail, and you have 100 people times maybe 10, that means you have to multiply 2 times 10 again as well. So you have at least 20 people dying.
Sure.
So if you have 20 people dying and the numbers keep increasing, you would have more people dying. So for those who say that they have not seen anybody that dies from COVID-19, yes, you may have not seen anybody that dies from it because the number of deaths are not, it's not alarming in Nigeria. But if we have more deaths occurring, if you have more people having the virus, if you have 1,000 people in a party and 700 of them have the virus, you are going to have at least 2 times 7, which is 14 people who are probably going to die from those people from that party. Now, if you don't know any of those 14 people, a lot of people will know at least one or person, 2 of those 14 people. So are we saying that's what we want? If we don't want that, we need to protect ourselves. We need to protect our loved ones. We need to, at least while we are waiting for the vaccine, we still need to, avoid large gatherings, especially during this Yuletide. That's the message the enemy is bringing to us. The Nigerian Medical Association is bringing to us. And we should avoid large gatherings this Yuletide. We should wear a face mask. We should wash our hands. We should ensure that we practice cough hygiene, sneeze hygiene. When we cough, when we yawn, when we sneeze, we should, use our bent elbow, do it inside our bent elbow, or we do it inside our face mask. When we do that, the chances that we are going to transmit the infection to any other person around us is very, very low. And that is what we preach.
So thank you so much for that submission. Listening to you and you're talking about this and the parties that is ongoing, I know that we are yet to confirm if there's going to be another second wave of this pandemic lockdown, but I know that earlier this year, maybe early last month, there've been a lot of small lockdowns and the likes. And all that. So do you think that we should have another lockdown with the rate of new cases that we are having presently, to be honest?
There's a proverb in Yoruba that says something about cutting the head off when you have a headache.
Okay.
Right? I think a lockdown is a last measure, it's a last resort when everything else has failed. Now, that is where the citizens need to take responsibility. If government is pushed to the wall, they may have to lock down. I'm sure the government itself does not want a lockdown because it's a huge burden financially on everything wise, socially on the government. And I'm sure the government doesn't want that as well. But when people are dying, when people die, when there's a lot of issues, mortalities, government will need to take action. And that is why you see government partially closing churches, closing bars, closing all those joints, so that young people would not, indulge themselves and then bring the virus home to the grannies, the grandmas and all that. So, because those are the people that will actually probably die from having the virus. The young people may not die. The young people may not die, but they will contract the virus from the club, from the large gatherings, and bring it to those who are vulnerable to it. Those who have hypertension, who have diabetes, who have heart diseases, kidney diseases, and all that. And those are most likely going to be the elderly people. So when they contract this from the young people, they suffer more burden from the virus than the young people who suffer from it. So that is why when we wear a face mask. Now, the thing about face masks is that if you talk, so you would observe that when some people talk, they bring out some tiny drops of saliva. Now, it's very, very risky for somebody who has COVID-19. Now, imagine somebody who has COVID-19 is talking without wearing face mask and is bringing out those tiny drops of saliva. That individual can infect as many people as possible that are around him or her. Now, when that individual wears a face mask, whatever he or she is dropping stays inside that face mask. So it's not getting out. So that individual is not likely to infect anyone around him or her. He's not even likely to drop droppings of whatever is coming out from the mouth or the nose onto tables or hand or any part of any structure around him or her. So that is the reason why the face mask is essential. Now, when that individual wears a face mask, the person around him or her also wears a face mask. It even increases the chances. Now, if anything happens to his or her own face mask, at least the face mask of the person around him or her is intact. So the chances of contracting any infection or any other thing at all from that person is very, very slim. That is where the face mask comes in.
All right.
So if we all wear our face masks, we will be sure to be very safe from contracting the virus.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Japhet. Before I ask you my next question, it is important for me to open the phone lines. Please, you can join us by calling our phone line 0700 923 923 923. Again, 0700 923 923 923. And of course, you can send us a WhatsApp message on 0817 313 6193. Let's hear your perspective of the topic at hand. If you have any questions for our guests, please go ahead. Or if you have any comments or, suggestion as well, you can please call our phone line. Listening to you, Dr. Japhet, I cannot help but ask, because I know apparently majority of Nigerians are relaxed and not sticking to the health and safety guidelines. What is the cause of this, will I say, laxity or of all the things that is ongoing at the moment, that we cannot just go through the guidelines?
Yes, honestly, I really can't place my hands on what exactly is the issue. But we know Nigerians can be very, very, they can have a huge disbelief in the government. So I think a portion of the population disbelieves the government. A portion of the population don't trust the government. I think that's one of the problems. Because when I was driving down here, somebody called a radio station I was listening to, somebody called Eze, and he was vehemently denying the fact that there is COVID-19 in Nigeria, that the government is just lying to us. So I think disbelief in government, maybe successive government programs or successive government activities, people probably feel let down. So that disbelief is important. Then I think the second thing is the fact that because we are lucky here in this part of the world, the disease is not as ravaging as it is in the UK.
Can you hold your thoughts, please? Hello, what's your name and where are you calling from, please?
Hello, good evening.
Yeah, good evening. What's your contribution today?
Yeah, my name is Anthony.
Okay.
I'm calling from Ikorodu.
All right.
I just wanted to ask the doctor, is it possible that people in the population have built some kind of immunity? What I'm saying is this. I asked during the first outbreak, I asked a lot of people, and I discovered people were having these symptoms of loss of taste and smell. And they kind of called it malaria. Well, many of them didn't come down sick as such, but they seem to have, that seems to have dwindled over time, and they're well. So I'm just wondering if some kind of immunity has built in the population, which is why it's not spiking as such, or are we still in trouble, to put it in a way? Yeah.
All right. Many thanks for your question. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your question. It's a brilliant question. Actually, I agree with you. There's been some form of immunity. A study has shown that many people in Western Africa, in Sub-Saharan Africa, have been exposed to the major coronavirus, which has been the coronavirus of the old before COVID-19 strain came around. So because we've been exposed to that coronavirus, we have built some sort of immunity against the real coronavirus itself. So because of that, our body, when this new COVID-19 comes in, our body recognizes that and mounts some form of fight against it. And so we can deal with it, especially young people, less than 40, who probably do not have hypertension, diabetes, and all that. Like I keep mentioning that because we have found out that it's actually worse in them. Those who have hypertension, diabetes, asthma, and all that, all those debilitating diseases. The nature of COVID-19, it's actually worse in them. So those who don't have anything, who have had partial exposure to some form of flu in the past, people who have had a lot of flu in the past, have actually built some form of immunity against COVID-19. And that is how we are able to beat it partially. I will mention that partially. It's not like we are not having cases. We are having cases. But the case fatality ratio, which is about 1.5, is what is not increasing dramatically. If you see people falling down left and right and dying, I'm sure a lot of people will be more scared. But let's not forget that people who have COVID-19 suffer from a lot of side effects. Some men may not be able to even, get their private part to come up well after even suffering COVID-19. So, yes. So, and it doesn't come back, immediately. It may take a while.
Like,
some people.
How long? I'm just curious.
I'm so interested in that.
I'm just curious.
So that one is there. Let's not forget that. So, people who have suffered from COVID-19 know the real trouble they went through, when they were in the isolation center or even when they are home, getting treated. So it's a lot of trouble if we got, COVID-19 and, we get treated and then the thing goes away. The best bet is not to have it at all. As you speak, I'm talking to, a couple of people who have it, whom we are giving home-based care. It is not funny at all. It's not an experience you would want to have, honestly, believe me. And for those who still don't believe, you can walk into the isolation center. When I was in medical school, there was a time a young lady came to visit me in the hostel and there was a burns incident and in Buliagba or somewhere. So they brought all the victims to LASEMS in Ikeja and she was there when I ran away and went to offer some form of help. When she came, she started crying. She barely spent 2 minutes there. She started crying. So for you to understand better or best what happens in the hospitals or what doctors are talking about, just visit the hospital and see for yourself. Go to the isolation center, visit even any other teaching hospital and see for yourself what people in the hospitals go through. You would understand and you would appreciate what good health is all about.
No, interesting. I'm so curious about knowing how long the men's, stuff are going to come about. That's going to be conversation after the show. And when you were talking earlier, you were talking about how people have doubts about the government and the likes and all. I know that according to Professor Akin Abayomi, the Commissioner for Health for Lagos State government, saying that schools reopening and worship centers facilitated the second wave of this COVID-19. So what sort of stringent measures do you advise for schools and maybe religious centers after in the second in the new year?
Yeah, I didn't want to quote the professor.
Yeah,
this is my boss. Sorry, but I did one.
This is real talk.
I did one, yes, and a lot of us actually want that the government should not open the schools yet.
Okay.
That the government should not open the religious centers yet. I'm a religious person, and I play a very vital role in my church. But I want them. If I was on air with a bishop, I was speaking against. He was speaking for opening the religious centers, and we knew what would happen. So it happened. There's no amount of preventive measures we put in place that would. We are humans. Human beings will always be human beings. You saw that party, Queen's Event Center, I think.
Yes, I saw.
Yeah, over the weekend. That was a shame. Honestly, that was a
reckless.
shame. So that was very reckless. And you can't imagine that. I'm sure we have master degree holders there, university graduates, PhD and all that. So they know the right thing to do. They just wanted to do the right thing. So if you open the schools and give them stringent measures, they may not obey. When they want to obey, there may not be water. There may not be the resources. There may not be hand sanitizer. There may not be enough face masks. There may not be enough desks to accommodate pupils or students in the class. There may not be that facility for the school to be able to actually practice social distancing, to actually ensure that their students, how many staff will go around and ensure that students actually are wearing their face masks. I was on fact-finding mission for the NMA with a couple of other officers to about many schools. That was higher institutions. And we found out that once the students see us, they will wear their face masks. Once you leave the class, they all come together and then they're doing their things. So we will ensure that the schools, observe social distancing, space out their desks as much as possible, provide water, and soap for students and for staff to wash their hands, ensure that students bring their face masks to school and wear them while in class and even outside class. Ensure that staff members also do wise. They will need to ensure that the school premises it's decontaminated before and after classes. They will ensure that waste are carted away as often as possible and decontaminated. And then they will also ensure that students and staff are traced. That is, they have a register where they can, phone numbers, addresses and all that. So that anybody falls sick, then they can. And then they also have a referral system and then an isolation bay where they can keep anybody who develops any symptoms. All this is need to put in place, but if they don't have the facility, how would they observe this?
Interesting. Still talking about the imported infection, so to speak. I know federal government and National Assembly are within the contemplation of banning flights from UK and US. Obviously, there is number of imported infection cases, and other than probably the local transmission and the likes and all of that in the party or schools or worship centers and the like. So why should we be giving a consideration instead of a banning action? As far as I'm concerned, I think there should be other ways of curbing this thing. What suggestion can you give regarding this?
I think we should ban flights from the UK right now. Okay. You know why? Most of our super cases from the UK. We've already news that there's a new variant in the UK right now. Just yesterday, I think all the 24 people who traveled from the UK to India tested positive to this new strain of COVID-19. So, and that was the reason why so many countries in the world, even in Europe, are banning flights from the UK, to and from the UK. Japan has banned almost every country, flying to their country right now during the Yuletide. So I know our people are there. I know we have a lot of ties and all that, but safety first. It's still, we are able to sort ourselves. Right now, the UK has made plans for their citizens. They are taking stock of another 100 million doses of vaccines. And when they get that, they're probably going to vaccinate all their citizens. When are we going to get a vaccine in Nigeria?
Interesting.
So if we cannot do that, we should do the basic thing. We should, take the steps that are the easiest for us to be able to take and then protect our people.
All right. So before I go to my next question, I think it's important for me to quickly read some messages from some of our listeners. Someone said, "Good evening, Kike. Good evening, Kike. Dr. Japhet, Aminat from Warewa. Why are we still having low testing numbers? I believe we have tested 1/10 of our population. I believe testing figures can help our government and healthcare system confront the challenges we have squarely." What do you have to say to that?
Yeah, brilliant information from Aminat. In fact, we have barely tested 1 out of 200 people in Nigeria. In Lagos, we have barely tested 1 out of maybe 150. Now, if you have tested only 1 out of 200 people and you have high figures, what do you think will happen when you test more people? So we should test more. Absolutely. We have been saying this right from the beginning of the outbreak in February, that we should increase our testing capacity. Now, let me play the devil's advocate. Now, I think government has more test centers right now, but people are probably not turning up. Maybe they are fatigued, they have apathy for testing and all that, or probably they don't believe. But then again, we should test. We should test more. There are several people who are having cough, who are sneezing, who are probably having breathlessness, who feel like they have malaria, but they're not testing for COVID. We should. When we carry out the test, at least to be sure within ourselves that, okay, I don't have COVID, I'm safe. My family members are safe, my children are safe. So we should test more. Absolutely, I agree.